I don't know if this directly applies to the history, or if you prefer to wait to answer this question, that's certainly fine. But I would be curious, just sort of, if it's possible to summarize them, the sort of key changes that happened in this most recent translation, specifically to the Eucharistic prayer, and how those might apply to, I guess, some of these concepts like the anamnesis or the eclesis, or any of these things you just walk us through.
The most useful change, that's really loaded. The most useful change that happened in our current translation, that one needs to be struck from the video. The most useful change that happened is the insertion of therefores. As you may have noticed on Sunday, but there was a lot of other stuff to notice. And as you'll see as you're going through this, there's 4 or 5 times during the Eucharistic prayer that the priest will pray, "Therefore we pray, Holy God, that, ... Those therefores are signaling that you have moved from one of these components into another. They're there in the Latin original, ergo it's much shorter. But it's a really helpful thing that reminds us that because you have made yourself present here, we therefore can turn around and offer back to you what you have first offered to us. Because you have accepted what we have asked, what we have offered to you, we therefore can say, please make us holy the same way that you have made these gifts holy. And because we have said that, you have made that for us, we therefore can stand in your presence, and so we can say, here are these petitions that we make for you. So that those insertions of the therefores, I think, are huge for seeing this structure laid out. There are some other changes, of course, that happened in the Eucharistic prayer, but there were no substantial changes in the ordering or the structure of any of these. This was only a change in translation, not new texts. Other thoughts, questions on the form pieces we just walked through? These questions? Okay. So what I thought we could spend the balance of our time on would be walking through some of these Eucharistic prayers. And we have 4 of them, more or less, that we have available in the Roman Catholic Church. And I've got copies of them here, and what I thought we could do, maybe this will work, maybe it won't work, is maybe like half of this table. Yeah, I think that'll work. Actually, that's perfect. So, you 3 get Eucharistic prayer number 1. You 3 get priest's favorite because it's the shortest. Eucharistic prayer number 2. You 3 get my favorite, Eucharistic prayer number 3. And you 3 get Eucharistic prayer number 4, which clearly was St. Basil's favorite because he wrote it. So before we dive into these, just a couple of things to let you know. Eucharistic prayer number 1, folks. That's you guys over here, right? Okay. You have what is sometimes called the Roman Canon. The Roman Canon was the only Eucharistic prayer that the Roman Catholic Church had available to it as the Roman Church from, let's say 215. That's probably way too early. But let's say about 215 until 1965. We had 1 Eucharistic prayer. Lots of variable prefaces. You have a preface inserted in there that you can use. That's called the Roman Canon. It's the distinctive Roman Eucharistic prayer, or Roman anaphora. Eucharistic prayer number 2, you guys have that one over there. That is basically a word-for-word rendition of the apostolic tradition from the mid-2nd century. Probably Roman in origin, maybe Syrian in origin. It almost doesn't matter because Roman and Syrian are very, very close in their structure of things. A couple of small edits were made to the original 2nd century texts to make it function as a Roman Eucharistic prayer. Eucharistic prayer number 4, you guys have that over here. It mostly is sourced from that text that I pointed to, Apostolic Constitution, so Syriac in origin, but it also draws together some elements, not its structure, but some elements from the Byzantine rite of St. Basil and from the later Palestinian rite of St. James, which is connected to some of those Syrian Chaldean pieces. And Eucharistic prayer number 3, you guys have a completely new Roman composition. No one had ever seen anything like it until 1965. It was sat down and written, imagine a blank cursor sitting there, that's how a committee sat down and wrote it. They used a Roman structure, so they used Eucharistic prayer number 1 and 2 as their Roman structure, but they brought in a whole bunch of both Alexandrian, I don't normally use Oriental, but in this case it works. They brought in Alexandrian tradition as well as a few pieces from St. Basil were drawn into that, not much. And that it was structured around, I'll let you figure out what it's structured around. At one point, someone proposed that Eucharistic prayer number 3 was sourced from these Gallican pieces. Current research basically says, probably not. Although one of the things that you do see with our current translation that we just got a change of, and then, by the way, these are all the revised translations you have. The translation changes did try to draw more fully on some of the other non-Roman Latin pieces that are part of our Latin or Western patrimony, the Gallican and anyway, on the Gallican tradition, Gallican and Gelasian traditions. So there's some of these sacramentaries that had been floating around in the 9th, 10th, 11th century that were not floating around in Rome. They were north of the Alps, and they had different prayers in them. And a number of those prayers would have been incorporated, or particular wordings of them have been incorporated to the way that we'll now be praying every Sunday. Eucharistic prayer 3 probably doesn't have any of that, but anyway, at some point somebody thought that it was, and that served as an interesting entree to mention that for this. So what I thought you could do with this is I will flip back to this piece here, and you'll have that slide and the subsequent one that you also have on your sheet. See if, as the 3 of you can find all of these parts in your particular Eucharistic prayer.